Good afternoon. Welcome to the Mary Grace Show. I am Mary Grace, the voice of sanity to help you navigate politics, culture, wellness, faith, and world events. And I have with me today a very special guest, one of your favorites, Dr. Troy Spurrill. And we're going to jump right into this. We're going to do a live Q&A, Ask the Doctor. But before we do that, we like to just have a discussion. And as you're coming in, I want to remind you that we do these interviews with different people, notable people, people that you know and love. And the best way to be informed when we do this is to make sure that you're on my mailing list. And that is the way to do that is to go to marygracemedia.com and get on the mailing list. And that way you won't miss a show. You will get an email before we have an interview like this. The other thing I want to encourage is that you go to that website and you find my X account, Twitter, and you find my Rumble. And I would like you to go over there and follow me on those accounts because as we go forward into this next phase of information and truth, it's likely that some of the platforms that you're currently on will engage in even further suppression, especially when it comes to health. So please don't miss out. Please make sure that you are following me on X and on Rumble. You can go directly to my website and scroll down and click the links to those platforms. You don't even have to remember my handle. All you have to do is click and follow. marygracemedia.com. Now, without further ado, we're going to go back to, we're going to go back to our conversation with Dr. Troy. Dr. Troy, I wanted to talk to you. Have we talked since the election? I can't even remember. Have we?
You know what? I don't think we have. It
Okay.
seems like seems crazy, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
I think we talked before that. So I did want to get your take on things, on where we are, because at this point, I think that Trump's major appointments are in place. And now it's just a matter of getting the confirmations by the Senate. We'll see how that goes. But Trump has a mandate to make America healthy again, and he's hopefully going to get RFK Jr. Confirmed as the head of Health and Human Services. That's a big job.
Yes.
And I wanted to get your perspective on where we are, what the appointments look like to you as somebody who has been boots on the ground as a provider. You've worked in many, many aspects of healthcare, from the public health to the hospitals to the insurance sector. I would love to get your perspective on how it's looking with what he's doing.
Well, I'm a fan so far. So obviously, I'm very thankful that he won. I will say this: what he is doing and about to do is he's creating an equal playing field. So where there was inequality, he's restoring uh, quality and just bringing an equal playing field. So this means he's not going to be getting rid of some things. Yes, some people will be prosecuted, for whatever they did. He's not really spending much energy doing that. So he's making some really good appointments. I'm not necessarily 100% a fan of all of them, and we can kind of go through the details of that.
Mhm.
But what I can tell you is right now, I'm ecstatic about RFK's appointment and what he stands for and what he's about to do. And it would be criminal for him not to get into that role. They're going to try, but he
Yeah.
really knows how to clean that up, and that's true for a lot of the different areas. So when it comes to our school systems, our healthcare system, and what I can tell you is this: people are responding at just the idea of Trump and his people coming in. So internationally, we see that we're going to see a big change with the border. We're going to see a big change with illegal immigration as far as the negative components of that
Yeah.
affecting our culture. And we're going to see changes with the wars and our economy. Now, that's not to say we can't and won't expect a little dip or something before there's the blessing of which. And I'm going to speak I'm a Christian, so I'm going to speak to a lot of the Christians here. When it comes to what's happening right now, there's an opportunity for Christians to start behaving like Christians. And what I mean by that is we've had a problem with a lot of the faux church people who are like pretending to be Christians almost.
Mm.
So when it comes to Christianity, this is the opportunity, thankfully, because of President Trump and the people he's putting on board, where we're going to stop getting the persecution as a Christian, and people on the other side are fearful. And so this is an opportunity for Christians to bless them with grace, mercy, and an abundance of biblical giving pouring into people. When they start to see how God designed the process, now we were actually directed to actually work, and they experience not Hitler, but rather the blessings of a Christian faith that they have been told is the number one cause and reason for all of these problems. This is our opportunity. And so Trump is putting people into place that will actually help create an equal playing field, but it requires all of us individuals,
Mm,
community level, to step up and get to work. Whether it's a Christian just being a part of a ministry and going in and just pouring into street ministries or whatever it looks like, or
mhm,
myself in the healthcare field. And I'm going to give an example. I'm not a huge fan of the Surgeon General appointment. And so, because of her pro stance with vaccines and everything like that, but
mhm,
there's a difference here. There are people like in government who fail forward because they're incompetent, and the people at the top want control, so they bring
mhm,
in incompetent people. Then there are people who are competent but not fully informed, misinformed. So a lot of her early stance on the vaccines and her take on that came from information from the CDC, which was compromised.
mhm,
So her trusted resource was compromised.
mhm,
Now RFK will be in charge of that trusted resource. So I don't feel she's incompetent. I think she's quite competent,
mhm,
but she also needs to be brought in like in my world, the functional medicine world. Recently, I've been asked to go into some hospitals, local hospitals here, to start teaching
yeah, yeah,
to their doctors. They just don't know that this exists. And
mhm,
when they find out, they're ecstatic. I think she's in that same boat. When she
okay,
finds out there's a different way to do healthcare
mhm,
and it's a solution to a problem, she is going to be ecstatic. When RFK starts to dismantle the negative parts of the FDA,
yeah,
then we're going to have a competent person to onboard this new information, and she'll do fine. So I like
yeah,
the appointment, but my big thing is: are they on board with Trump, and are they competent?
right, right.
Yeah,
One of the things too about her that I think people are overlooking is that she's a very good communicator.
yeah,
And for that role, that is a public facing role. And, it's kind of an ambassadorship, as it were.
yeah,
And you want somebody that is likable,
yeah,
right? And also one thing that I try to remind people of is that not everybody is on board. Even conservatives, they're not they're not awake to what a lot of the critics are. There
yeah,
are people who are really upset about this appointment because they know the truth, which is what you're saying. There are people who understand at a very deep level what what's missing and what she doesn't get yet. And they're applying that standard um, to this appointment, but I think they're missing the fact that a lot of the population, uh, doesn't see it that way. In fact, they value vaccines,
yeah,
and they think it's very important. And I think that it was wisdom on Trump's part, not to bring in somebody that's considered a firebrand in that
yep,
space,
I
because that
agree.
person would be vilified and marginalized and probably not confirmed.
Yep,
And
right out of the gates. Yep,
and I
exactly
don't
right.
think I don't think Trump wants to expend political capital on
No,
something like that. It doesn't mean that he's not, or and that RFK, that they're not going to be working with and partnering with those people, just like the example that you said about, going into hospitals. But we have to get this ocean liner out of the port,
yes,
out right? We've
right.
gotta get into the ocean, and we've gotta get it off the dock. And sometimes that means that, the people, handling the lines and, loading the ship or whatever, they don't align ideologically with you. There's just no way possible to make that happen because and you also, you have to appeal to a very broad 350 million people
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
And I mean, we all know somebody, we know lots of people, and we're going to see this at Thanksgiving. A lot of our family members have no idea why anyone would be upset with this pick,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to ask you, have you had your flu shot? They're
Yeah.
going to be talking about, going down to Costco to get their updates on everything. Because that's the mindset. And so I don't think we want to alienate those people right out of the gate and have
No.
them not trust because they most likely voted for Trump.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good strategic move. And I hope that the people who are naysaying this and who are trying to stop it will understand that, first of all, Trump is not dumb.
Yeah.
And sometimes people who are very smart, they come right out of the gate assuming that he's just dumb and that they're smarter than he is.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why he was able to get done so much. That's why he was trying
Yeah,
to, that's why he won. They underestimated just who he is.
yeah,
Anyone who thinks he's
yeah,
not intelligent is just so off
yeah.
base.
And I get annoyed at some of the especially some of the conservatives who
Yeah.
are and libertarians who are in these highly specialized spaces, of expertise who value their knowledge to the point that they really have, like, this disdain for Trump, and I'm not talking about leftists, I'm talking about, you know, people that kind of supported him on the surface. It's not a good look, it's kind of arrogant, and I hope that they will be open-minded enough to step back and see, okay, there may be some wisdom to this choice that he's made. Also, I think it's important when we talk about taking a Christian standpoint that we practice some gratitude,
Yeah.
because A, he won, B, he has some amazing appointments that are going to knock the ball out of the park. And somehow the, um, outcry over this one appointment out of thousands, is threatening to dim the light on the good that he's done. I mean, these are some incredible people that are coming in, like CDC, RFK Jr. It's like they forgot, and
Yeah.
they're not looking at the big picture. So, thank you for weighing in on that. I appreciate it. So
Well, I also
as
want to say one
yeah,
thing because this is
yeah,
very, very important. It's very, very obvious that God's hand has been on this the entire time, and people
mhm,
have to remember that. This has definitely been God directed. And as we were talking, it just came to mind that Kim Clement's prophecy during this
mhm,
time in this season has come to fruition. And part of his prophecy was that there will be a woman halfway through my David's second term. So 2 years into
mhm,
Trump's second term, there'll be a woman. At first, they don't like her, but then they come to love her, who's part of unifying the country. She
mm,
could be that woman. We don't know who that is yet,
interesting.
but that's
Yeah,
interesting. It fits this scenario. At
y
first, they don't like her, then they come to love her. And to your point, she's not anti-vaccine. And truthfully, the idea of vaccines is a good idea. The implementation of them is what we're about to investigate to see how much of
mhm,
a negative influence it has. And that's what we're about to get to. So someone like her fits that potential Kim Clement side
mhm.
of the prophecy too. So just remember, God, God has
Yeah,
got this completely mapped out, planned out, and it's worked exactly
mhm.
how God intended. So
That's a good
that's why
point.
I'm on the same page with you with that,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
I think she's very competent to usher in the truth as it's revealed in real time.
So, yeah, so maybe she could be the one that,
She could,
as she's red pilled, she
yes,
can red pill the normies.
yes, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Nothing like a normie to red pill the normies.
absolutely, yeah,
So, yeah, and I think that's really good, and, because a lot of the people that are, at the forefront of these, breakthroughs, they're very intense people.
yes,
And, it's not always wise to put somebody like that as the face and the voice of the whole nation, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it can be very polarizing. And again, I think there's wisdom in that. Do
yeah.
I like everything she's done? No. Do I agree with everything she said? Absolutely not. But I like what you said. It's she's not an incompetent person who
Yeah.
is just being slotted into a role. It's not like a DEI hire. And so I think that's important. I really appreciate your perspective on it. Now, when it comes to making the changes that RFK Jr. is talking about, you well, actually, I wanna shift to one thing because Nicole Shanahan, who was RFK's running mate, she was recently talking about the companies like Pfizer, and, she had something very interesting to say, which is that, she's not advocating for, shutting these companies down or stopping them,
Yeah.
but what she's advocating for is shifting the focus on what they do.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that she's saying that, and I'm sure she's taking some heat for it, but because they have caused a lot of damage. I mean, there's no
Mhm.
doubt about that, and their stock is way down,
Yeah.
which a lot of people are happy about. But at the same time, I've been thinking about all of these industries that at their face, like you're saying, the idea of a vaccine isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Correct.
Um, but and the idea of some pharmaceuticals and therapeutics is not necessarily a bad thing. Um, Also, when you have companies like this, you have all of the infrastructure in place. You don't necessarily want to shut down a whole manufacturing industry um, on an based on ideology. If you can shift the focus of what they're doing and where they're putting their energies and the resources, could they shift for good? And I think
Yeah.
that's what Shanahan is saying. Is where do you see that going? Like with pharmaceuticals, with food?
Yeah.
Um, what do you see happening there?
Well, getting our food cleaned up is going to help a lot with the chronic illness. So
Yeah,
identifying it and getting some accountability. What we really need is continued accountability from the food and the drug side of things. Number one. Number two, there is very much a strong need and desire for how do I say this? I've had many experiences in my life. One very very early on in my career, I was a student just learning how how to treat the body, assess things. I was at a conference where nutrition was being discussed, and they're doing IV vitamin C, and I got invited to a meeting at midnight, which is very unusual at a medical conference. And so I said, I got to see what they're talking about at midnight. Why would they do this at midnight? When I
yeah,
got there, there was an armed bodyguard with a machine gun patting everyone down going into the room. I'm like, what's going on? And he said, the doctor will explain on inside the room, but there's been a threat on his life. And so he'll go into details. Short version of the story is he had a natural solution for something, and he found out that a hit had been put on him. So he was disseminating his information.
you're right.
That was, I was in my 20s when I ran into that. And
Yeah,
it kind of woke me up like, holy smokes, like people aren't just interested in getting the information out. Now, I say that to say this. I'm a part of two studies right now for information that's been suppressed from the people, old research that never got any traction because there was no money in it. So
yeah,
there's a shift that has to occur. So it's not just um, we need pharmaceutical companies. We don't. We need trustworthy companies that
yeah.
happen to make pharmaceuticals, but will actually defer and deter to a more, if there's something that's cheaper, more cost effective, they're okay with that
Mhm,
happening. So there
mhm.
has to be a shift, especially in the mindset of people
Yeah,
who think that healthcare is dependent on pharmaceuticals, because it is not.
right,
So there
right.
are some life-saving things that they have and that they've
Mhm.
developed, but but the things that have actually caused damage and some of the dirtiness of the industry, that
Yeah.
has to go away.
Mhm.
And I've seen enough now to know that just the 2 projects that I've been privy to, getting information on the fly, like one of them is outperforming the chemotherapeutic drugs, that cost $10,000, and the
Yeah.
cost for this is $50.
And
I
there's
mean,
no yeah, the profit margins aren't there.
no, there
And
is no
that's
profit margin,
yeah,
so it doesn't get investigated.
right,
And so
right.
that's a shift that has to occur. And
Mhm.
that's just what I'm privy to in these 2 different, studies. So if there's that, there's other ones. And, one of my mentors years ago, we started actually working on nutritional deficiencies. We had a great product, a machine that measures the pH of the blood, urine, saliva. Well, it happened he was getting success with prostate cancer, and he was raided by the FBI. The FBI came in and
Yeah.
shut him down, arrested him, and the only reason why he got let free, if you will, is because one of his patients was a U.S. senator, and so he called the senator and said, "What's going on?"
Wow.
And he basically said, "Well, you're not going to be in trouble, but you can't use that equipment anymore. It's not FDA approved." And he
Right.
says, "I'm not treating cancer. I'm just looking for nutritional deficiencies and filling the gaps." And so they took the equipment. They ended up shutting the company down that made the equipment.
Yeah.
And so that became a very expensive paperweight in my basement for a long time.
I've seen
Having
that
those
with,
removed is what I'm looking for. That's what I want. Having
yeah,
those barriers
right,
removed,
right.
and that's what not just myself, many other doctors are
Okay.
about to have the availability. Trump has said the right to try, number
Yes.
one. And
Yes.
so just imagine if these doctors who have these breakthroughs are able to investigate to see, does it work or not work? We don't know because they always get shut down. So
Mhm.
we're about to see cheaper solutions. We're also going to see
Yeah.
some of those solutions not pass the grade and fail, but at least we'll know.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, the profit motive, uh, the motivation behind so-called healthcare, it has to change. The
Yeah,
mindset has to change, for these reasons because, when you have these huge lobbying groups, um, pushing for these regulations, with the administrative state doing just what you described, sending the FBI to shut somebody down, not because they think it's not safe, but
yeah,
because it is going to undercut the profits of these mega corporations and hedge funds and things like that. So this is really important for people to understand. The same thing with food. The so-called heart healthy foods that you've been sold for a long time, they're actually bioengineered to make you have an addiction, to
yeah,
put you in an addictive state. So this is something that I'm hoping that people are waking up to. Now, one of the things that we've talked about on this show is that some of these changes, and these initiatives are aimed at the coming generations. And I just saw a post the other day on X. Somebody said, "My middle schooler just came to me, trying to educate me about seed oils and artificial sweeteners." And there was a few other things that I think, fats and things like that. And, and she was so excited, she
yeah,
said, "I was blown away." But this is so important that we do not dismiss these younger generations. They are very skeptical, and they're very awake, and they have the power of social media at their
yeah,
fingertips. And so that, to me, when I saw that, I was really encouraged because I I felt like that's the generation, the millennials, Gen Z, the kids after that, they're the ones that, as they embrace this knowledge and as they, um, make these shifts at a very young age and then do that for their children and their children, um, this is this is amazing. The potential of this is huge, and you've been talking about that, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we
Long
personally, at
time.
our age, we can make changes. It's important that we do, and I've been working with you, and your practice, to make changes for myself
Yeah.
that are actually helping. So those of you who are, at Gen X and Boomer, don't throw in the towel.
No.
But the critical piece of this rests on the 40 and under people, because they're the ones that are still having children, that are raising children, that are raising grandchildren, and that are having their eyes opened. They're the ones that are gonna have an impact for the next 100 or 200 years in this nation.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing, what we're looking at here. Um I think, hard to believe we've already been on for about a half an hour here, and
Wow.
the time is flying. I know, and I know that your time is limited. I wanted to ask you, before we jump into questions, which I do wanna get to some questions, um, for somebody who is listening, um, who may be thinking, I kinda missed the boat, you know? I have a whole medicine cabinet full of prescriptions, or I have a long list of ailments, and I've been in this allopathic system for so long, I don't see any hope. What
Mm.
would you say to those people coming into this next phase of America?
Well, you're about to be blessed, like you've never been blessed before. So definitely have hope. We have a saying, "Don't let age be your cage." And
Mm,
so just remember, there's a lie in there. And when you hear an excuse come out of your mouth, what we do, we look at that and say, like Greg Locke, Pastor Greg Locke has a great saying. He says an excuse is nothing more than a reason wrapped in the skin of a lie. And when we believe a lie, it
mm,
has a detrimental effect on us. So number one,
wow.
don't believe that lie. The truth is you can be restored in a lot of different ways. And so we've had people on 16 to 25 medications come in. And yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes work and effort. But you can, just like the Titanic, swing that back around the other way and get like sailing and miss
Yeah.
that iceberg, so to speak. And there's a lot you can actually do. It just requires getting that instant gratification out of your mind
Mhm,
and collecting all the information and then putting together a plan. That's basically all I do. I help people
mhm,
put
mhm.
together a plan based on where the communication systems are broken down in their body, and you just start uh, chipping away at it. Just like the statue of David didn't wasn't
Ye
just there; it
yeah,
had to be made. It's the same
right.
thing. And I have people in their 80s that are turning their life around right now. I have people in their 70s doing it. So there's a lot of benefit, and there's work involved. And
Yeah.
sometimes when people are exhausted, they're like, I just don't have anything left. But
Mhm,
a lot of times for you to actually overcome what's drowning you, you have to surrender yourself. It's not about doing, it's about surrendering. I'm going to give you an example. All of our strengths, when they're overdone, become our greatest weaknesses. So if my strength is
mm,
confidence and I'm overconfident in excess, it becomes arrogance, my weakness. If your
right.
strength is supporting other people and you oversupport, you become self-sacrificing and a victim. And so it's important for people to know the first step is actually surrendering yourself, crucifying the flesh, they say.
Mhm,
And so
mhm,
it's about letting go, and it's not changing who you are, it's surrendering who you are, which actually gives you more energy. So for you to actually become the best version of yourself, it starts with that. And
mm,
then you just start just kind of making a couple steps forward along the
mhm,
way, making
mhm.
small changes that with big
Yeah,
impact. And a year
yeah.
down the road, you'll be surprised at what you're doing. We're seeing it already in
Mhm,
people that
mhm.
just are making a complete shift. And so it's
Yeah,
going to be the
yeah.
next 5 years for sure. You're going to see a ton of people make that shift.
It's good, yeah, and I'm one of those people that's making a shift, because I've been working with you for, I think, about 7 months now, maybe, and, I was really frustrated, as you know, when we
Mhm.
first started, and when we got my blood work, I was doing what I thought were the right things, and still just not getting the
The
numbers,
payoff.
especially, and
Yeah.
right, and my blood work showed that,
Yeah.
and so one thing that I think has been so valuable is taking vitamin P, patience. Um, and then also, like you're saying, just trusting the process and,
Yeah,
removing some things, adding some things, uh, really being able to kind of, um, just yeah, trust the process
yeah,
and then rest,
yeah,
right? Just, take care of myself, emotionally and not allow even the stress of trying to fix it to take over,
yeah.
because I do like, I'm a fixer, I like to fix things.
But wait, if
So
you remember, we had to talk about surrendering that
yeah,
to allow you to be the
yeah.
best version, so that's a perfect example, the fixer.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
and, the interesting thing is because I've been I'm really in this caregiver role with my dad, it's even more of a juxtaposition because I'm such a strong advocate for him, and I have to I have to be, in some cases, like, extremely proactive.
yeah,
And so there's sort of this push and pull where for me, I'm having to just go, "Just let go, kinda
yep,
surrender this," but at the same time, be kind of like this pit bull for him, you know? And so that's very interesting. I wanna jump to a couple of questions, for for my listeners. We are going to, we're not gonna go as long today as we normally do, just because it's we both have other we have to work. So, Dr. Troy has patients to see,
yes,
and so
yes,
he's actually taken off his from his lunch, today to talk to us. So I take it that you're doing intermittent fasting today. So,
yes, today's a fasting
um,
day.
yeah, and, somehow I think I put up the wrong QR code earlier for you guys. Let me see. This is my website. I don't know if that's what was on there before. I don't think it was, but, that's where you go to get on my email list. But let me show you Dr. Troy's contact information. As we go into this Q&A, I want to remind people that this is not medical advice, that Dr. Troy is not your doctor. I am not even a doctor. And we're having a conversation and we're bringing you this for educational purposes. It's really important that if you have a current provider and you're thinking of making changes, with medications, that you definitely talk to them. If you decide to make an appointment with Dr. Troy, go ahead and reach out to them. Tell them that Mary Grace sent you. Tell them they're going to ask you what medications are you on, things like that. But please don't make any drastic changes until you have gotten into that conversation and that relationship, and then you're putting together a plan with them. That's really important. But again, this is not medical advice. But we want you to be your best, most healthy self. And that's why we do this. And I've gotten great feedback from people who have decided to work with the team at Synapse.
Mhm.
So if you're looking for the website, it's officialsynapse.com. It's Synapse. That's his practice. And you work with people in every state and many nations, correct?
Yep, all 50 states and 12 countries right now. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's exciting, especially for our neighbors to the north,
Yeah,
because you're very
yes.
close, and in some cases, they can come to your practice, which is really nice. You're in Minnesota. All right, so let's go to a quick question here. Um, I wanna talk about I wanna address, Lisa Jennings. She's a longtime follower, and she's basically saying that, coming off the meds is one of the hard things, but that I just wanted to I don't think she has a specific question, but I wanted to address this because, I think that people get stuck, and I think that they think, um, "This is what I've been doing for years. My doctor says this. My doctor said that this is not gonna change. And that if I go off these medications or I make any changes in my routine, it could be very dangerous for my health." Um, so how would you address that? What's it like? So let's say Lisa calls you guys or fills out the form. What would be the steps that would you would take to help make that transition?
Yeah, so I literally just had this conversation before we got on the podcast with a patient who was told that they'd be dead in 3 years from blood clots because of their genetic disorder if they ever got off their medication. And so I had the privilege of just going through his lab work with him, saying that it's perfect, and he looked really good for a dead man. So that was part of our conversation.
Wow.
It's because the doctors don't know, so it's because that's what they know, but we're able to manage it with diet, lifestyle, and he's very compliant. He's fine. He says I can live this way the rest of my life. So we do our due diligence and make sure that his lab work is good. But in general, we don't do that until we assess. So the beginning is just getting all this information. We
Mhm,
figure out who you are. One of the biggest problems that we have in not just this country, but in the world, is that people don't know their identity, their God given identity.
mhm,
And that includes just their makeup. Now, a lot of that has to do with the doctors giving them some information about how their body works. But when you put it through the filter of how God works, you get a lot more information on how the body is supposed to work. And so we gather that information. We look at lab work. We look at physical things like the foundational stuff, like God restores us each night with good, deep, restorative sleep. Are you sleeping properly? We look at all those foundational components. And then if we find a root cause, which is always our goal, as to what's actually causing the disorder, that the medications are there. Because the medications, unless it's life saving emergency medications,
mhm,
medications actually never address the root cause issue of why this happened, because they don't have deficiencies. They don't plug deficiencies. They're meant to manipulate your system to help you get symptomatic relief. And
yeah,
so, for example, steroids with autoimmune, they're not really working on the root cause condition of what's set
right,
up the autoimmune.
right,
They're giving you pain relief, which can seem like it's very helpful, which it can be. So we look at what's causing the root causes, and then we work with the prescribing physician about a weaning process with the medication, and we monitor it closely. So if we're dealing with blood pressure, we just make sure the blood pressure is still staying in the right range as we slowly bring you off one and upregulate a diet and lifestyle scenario with whatever's causing the root causes. If we
mhm,
don't have the root cause addressed, we will see that with the symptoms starting to come back, and then we pause until we find it.
got
So
it, okay,
there's work involved, but we've
mhm,
had many people start on, like I said, 16 medications and get down to one
mhm, and I
or
think
no.
that's really important what you're saying is to make adjustments, get to the root cause, and that's why I think, obviously, going cold turkey off of
Yeah,
medications,
don't do that.
that's not that's
No.
not wise if you're not addressing and adding other things in.
Well,
Um,
my 2 cents is don't do that. Don't go off your medications unless you have a plan to replace them,
okay,
in general. Like, that is good counsel, in my opinion.
right, okay, alright, that makes sense.
I did see something from Lisa too. She said, "My granddaughter is a third-year medical student through Wake Forest. Will she get the new true information before she graduates?" The answer is no, but she'll be given the seeds of what that looks like. So she'll be
Okay.
close.
Okay, good to know. Um, and then I got a question from Edme. I'm going out of order here. I'm kind of picking like my legacy followers here. So, uh, the people that have followed me through, band accounts and keep
Yeah,
finding me,
that's
we're
good.
we're in this together. So Edme is asking, what do you think? Oh, hold on, not that one. I wanted to do the one about your nephew. Where did that question go? Did I lose it? Shoot. It was about the eczema. Eczema. The How did we lose that question? Um, Shoot. Where'd that go? Let me find it.
Oh,
Oh,
I've
here we
got it.
go. My 13-year-old nephew is struggling with bad eczema. It's so bad his parents resorted to meds. What can he do? I love that question because there's
Yeah.
so many solutions,
Yeah, exactly, and there's a
right?
lot of different, potential contributors. So, eczema is basically your skin is, part of your immune system. So, what's happening on the skin is a reflection of what's happening internally. So, there's an inflammatory process somewhere internally. Now, sometimes it's an infection on the actual skin itself, and that usually comes from, like, overwashing and actually trying to be too
Mm,
diligent with
okay,
that stuff.
okay.
or open wounds, things like that. If you tend to create oily skin versus dry skin, that can also play into it. So you need to have blood flow going to the skin to deliver the moisture, and you have to identify what is the uh, internal thing that's causing the skin reaction. So there's a couple of areas. Number one, the lining of the intestinal tract is where a lot of our immune system is. So
Mm,
if there's a problem with a food reactant, something artificial dyes in particular is very common with that. So antibiotic use can trigger dysbiosis, bacterial imbalance that can
okay.
cause eczema. The top causes of eczema are usually food reactions. So you want to make sure, is it gluten, wheat, dairy, soy, or sugar, and is there dysbiosis in the gut? Other things that can cause it are nasal problems, inflammation from teeth can also cause eczema.
Mm,
And then other things like vitamin D deficiency or vascular compromise. At 13, one of the weird scenarios that can cause it is when there's an actual shift in hormones. It'll cause the liver to get congested, and the lymph system, which is where your other immune system is, gets backed up, and it'll cause the actual skin condition. So you want to support the liver. You do that with low inflammatory diet, omega-3 fish oils,
mhm.
making sure you're getting, again, good antioxidants to help support the liver system. Sweating and exercise, although it may increase the eczema in the beginning, helps push the lymph. So if the skin has
Mm,
eczema, think immune system, it's infection or inflammation somewhere in the body, either in the lining of the gut directly, in the liver lymph system,
mhm.
or in the actual surface or just underneath the surface of the skin, because your immune system has to actually be able to go there. If you go to my
Right.
website, there's a video, a 4-minute video. I show you what
Okay.
that looks like under the microscope. It actually shows you how your immune system cleans it all up. So it's a really
Okay.
good video. It's on YouTube as well. It's called Your Immune System Under the Microscope.
And that's officialsynapse.com.
Yep.
That was a
Yeah.
good question, and this is a perfect example of, uh, the value of working with Dr. Troy, with your team, um, because the questionnaire that you have for your patients is so extensive,
Yeah.
that, and it's so important because you're gonna get to those root causes talking about diet, talking about, puberty, talking about hormonal changes, like,
Yeah.
so many things you listed, you're gonna be able to narrow that down.
Yeah.
So if Edmy's, nephew and his mom or dad wanted to, reach out, this is like a best case scenario to be able to figure this out as opposed to treating a symptom that most likely isn't going to go away unless he makes some changes, but you don't know what changes to make
Yeah.
without investigating. And so
Yeah.
you're like an investigator.
That's all I do,
You're
actually.
like a
Yeah.
private investigator for the
Yep.
body.
Yes,
Um,
private investigator and the lawyer that's prosecuting, so I have to collect the evidence to actually.
Okay, yeah, exactly, so perfect. But you're not judging. So,
No,
that's
no.
really good because everybody is coming from a different place, and that's one of the things I love. Like, you're not gonna get a big lecture and, like, the judgy thing from Dr. Troy. Um, and, Listen, here's a good question. This is Eileen. She says, "I've been trying to wean off Paxil antidepressant, but I'm struggling. Is it possible after 20 years?"
Not only possible, it's recommended. So there's a lot of clinical research that it loses its effectiveness after 10 years. So if you struggle getting off it, it means that still has some level of effect, but the root cause is not being addressed.
Mm,
Because all Paxil does is it holds the neurotransmitter in the receptor longer. So you have to look at where you actually make that neurotransmitter, and most of that's made in the gut, 60 to 70%,
okay.
20 to 30% in the midbrain. So there are things that can interfere with making of the serotonin dopamine pathways. So yeah, definitely you can do that. We've had people um, be on it for 20 years and be able to get off of it. So, but you have to look at the root cause scenario, what set it up in the first place. There are some genetics involved. There's some environmental factors involved. There is inflammation that might be, and very commonly is affecting the digestive system. There could be stress, emotional connections as well, that as far as just burning up the fuel. So there's a lot of factors, but it absolutely can be something addressed.
It's good, yeah, and, one of the things for me, with anxiety and depression, definitely changing my diet has helped a lot with that. Um, I wanted to, look at Bobby's question about, uh let me go back up here. Um, it was an early on question about wasn't necessarily a question, but a statement. I'm in my 80s on 5 medications. I'm being told I need knee replacement and having bad back pain. I want to stop all those meds and feel better. I have a question for you about that. Because I know that one of the major alternatives now to joint replacement is stem cell therapy.
Hmm.
Um, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's so new and people I know there's a lot of scams out there
There
around
is,
stem
yeah.
cells. So if somebody's looking at avoiding surgery, is that possible to do in the United
Yeah.
States? And what's the best way
Well,
to pursue that?
yeah, we actually do that. So that is one of the
Oh,
things we do.
okay.
So we do PRP, and for
Yeah.
the stem cell stuff, there's a mechanism there. And my head researcher that we have here, he helped develop one of the largest stem cell facilities in Colorado. There's an ethical way of doing it, where you take it from your own cells and then you
Mhm.
apply it. And what we found is that it is highly beneficial for knees, the PRP in particular, to start with, not the stem cell. And then so there is a potential mechanism of action there. Also, we have machines here that exercise the muscles around the knees to strengthen them, that mimics 6 months worth of exercise that you can give someone in their
Wow.
50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So you get a little bit extra boost. So there's a mechanism there. We brought in that technology from Europe, and it's very been very good. But there's a lot of it's expensive. So meaning expensive to actually operate and do it well. So not a lot of clinics do it well. They try and sell
Mm,
you. And the
okay.
medical doctor that we have that runs our program came to us because of our ethics. Because where she was before, they said basically if someone comes in for a right knee, sell them on the left knee needs it as well, with zero evidence. That now, for me, that's pretty bad. But
Yeah.
there is scientific evidence on that, and so there's some benefit, definitely.
Good. Good. Thank you. And let's see. I know you can see the questions from the Facebook
Yeah.
and the YouTube. Is there any question that jumps out at you? Why don't we take one more before we sign off for today?
Okay, so this one is I read that blood thinners do not prevent blood clots. Any information about that? They reduce the potential for blood clots. So you still have to look at what is the main trigger for the blood clots. And so that's the patient I had today, and they have a genetic disorder called factor V. And so there are genetics that make you more predisposed to blood clots. The reality is there's a lot you can do. One of the best things that can help with that is nattokinase or lumbrokinase, the same thing that helped with the prevention of the clots with the spike protein. And so uh, that's one of the things that medical doctors will use blood thinners and just deal with the side effects of the blood thinners, which is lack of oxygen going to your cells because the blood's so thin. So you can still get
Mm,
clots even though you're on blood thinners. It does reduce the impact of clotting significantly, though, but there are natural ways to do it. If you have good omega-3 fish oil status, if you have good antibiotic status to protect the endothelial lining, the likelihood of clots is reduced quite a bit as well. And then a nice balance between the vitamin K and nattokinase is one of my favorite things for that.
good. I love it. Let's see. So many good questions here. This is what I want to do. I want to uh, put these questions on hold. I definitely think that Lisa, if you can contact Dr. Troy, I would definitely reach out to him because it sounds like your history. You're having trouble with medication. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you're very frustrated about, and I can relate. And
Yeah.
pretty much anybody who's worked with Synapse can relate to that. So please go to the website. Go to officialsynapse.com and, just see if it would be a good fit for you. Um,
There's one more,
Go
Mary.
ahead.
I just want to answer because it's such a good question. Because
Okay.
this is from Bobby. I just read that levothyroxine causes bone damage. I've been taking it for about 50 years. You're going to find out that a lot of different medications have the potential of doing that. And levo is not an awful medication. Actually, it has saved a lot of women in particular. But the reality is, why do so many women need hormone replacement in the form of thyroid? And so the reality is the root cause was never addressed. So it's not necessarily that the levo is causing that damage, it's that the
Mhm.
root cause was never addressed.
Mm.
And so to help prevent bone damage or bone loss is all about oxidant antioxidant status. And so, um, for example, I good vitamin E, tocotrienol, can actually help circumvent that, restoring your acid imbalance.
Mhm.
Thyroid hormone works at 50% efficiency in an acidic body. So, by getting the acidic nature of your cells addressed, it reduces the need for thyroid, assuming you still have a thyroid. Also, everything RFK is about to do with the Food and Drug Administration is going to fix that, because the main reason for women needing thyroid is because of endocrine disruptors in our food. These
Yeah.
are things that mimic estrogen in our food that disrupt the thyroid, that need the
Okay.
the, the actual support. So the root cause is more of cleaning
Yeah.
up the environment, RFK stuff,
Yep.
and then going in and resetting the acid inside the cells so that your bones don't go from what's called osteoblastic to osteoclastic.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
don't
Do
shoot
you
the
think
messenger on that one.
do you think he's going to address the flower conditioners, the bromide that's used
Yeah.
for conditioning and put the iodine back in as a flower conditioner? I don't know if
Well,
people
a
know that
lot of
that
it
was
will
a
be
big
addressed.
thing.
He's hiring good people on his committees, and so a lot of that will be addressed. And we've got 4 years to die plus more, I think. But
Mhm.
we've got a lot of time to start rolling a lot of that out. So
Yeah.
he's got a
Okay.
really
Okay.
good
Good.
plan and agenda, and he has the knowledge. He's got it
Good.
already written up, so he knows exactly what to do. So
Have you talked to him?
no.
Okay. But you're going to, I'm
Yeah,
sure. It's gonna happen.
I will see. I'll definitely have much to say, which I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
us scrambling
Yeah.
right now to say, "Ooh, don't forget this. Don't forget this."
Yeah, I think, and please, everybody, pray for President Trump and his
Yeah,
family and for this transition team. This is there are people who have, um, a very strong desire, to prevent everything that, President Trump and his team and RFK are wanting to do. So they really do need the Lord's protection,
yeah,
and please keep them in prayer. Let's pray for a smooth transition and an actual inauguration, and a successful 4+ years for the mandate that we have elected President Trump to enact. Because, like you said, it's not going to be. Just 4 years. This
yeah,
is this is a generational change because it
yes,
took generations for us to get here,
yep,
right? I mean, even
exactly,
just like the industrialization of our food
yep,
that was started in the late 1800s.
yep,
Um, so it's we're really talking a lot, but, we're coming into the 250th, anniversary of our country, and I think this is a perfect time to pivot
yeah,
back to, into not even back, but into a golden age
yeah,
of understanding, wisdom, knowledge, and optimal
yeah,
health. So listen, everybody, please do reach out to Dr. Troy Spruill. Go to officialsynapse.com, and we're going to say goodbye to Dr. Troy for now.
yep.
You're going to be back. Oh, there's one quick question that somebody asked on Rumble. I got to ask this. It was early on. They said, please ask Dr. Spruill what he thinks is in the big Christmas present that is hid in the closet. This is something that you referred to on Flyover Conservatives.
Oh wow, they are they're
They're
listening to a lot.
following you. They're following you.
I think we're going to have some revelation that's going to make our job a lot easier. So I think there's going to be a Christmas blessing, and we're going to be celebrating for a year. So I don't know if it has to do with um, election stuff. I'll tell you this: it has to do with truth coming out. So the truth is coming out, and there'll be revelation after revelation after revelation.
Okay.
And I'm going to just make this quick announcement. One thing I have been asked to do is start to teach my methodology and my processes that I've developed here to
Mhm.
clinics around the country. So if you have a local clinic who you
Okay.
think be open to this, reach out, let us know, give us their name, because we are going to be onboarding this methodology in all 50 states to help create more local support. So that this is
Amazing.
something that's going to be coming out. So go ahead and reach out to us as well and give us some recommendations, because we will be, just like RFK is onboarding people, we'll be doing the same thing, and we're going to be working with
Good.
100 different clinics next year. So just
Wow, wow.
yeah, let us know if you have someone who thinks like-mindedly that we would start.
Mhm.
We're going to start interviewing all kinds of different clinics
Okay.
to see
Okay.
where they're at. So
Local action.
local action,
Local action
because
has a
it's not about
national
us, it's
impact.
about all of us taking
Yeah.
local action, right?
Yeah, that's so good, so good.
Yeah,
And, to those of you, I think, if you have a doctor that you're frustrated with, if you think that they might be open to changing and to moving in a different direction, send them this show. I mean, they're busy, but, ask them, "Hey, fast forward to X part of this show. Listen to this. Would you be willing to have a conversation about this?" You never know,
yeah,
if you don't ask. I've had conversations with my dad's doctor about certain things, and sometimes they're open. They're like, "Oh, okay," because it's like they haven't actually gone through the critical thinking process to get there. Um, and they're very much on a very rigid track in medical school. So thank you, Dr. Troy, for being here. We're gonna say goodbye, and everybody stick around for just a second. I want to remind you that we have some incredible partners here on the show, including Synapse, but some other ones too. And we're going to help you go into the holidays getting healthier and also helping your family members to be healthy and to be prepared and to also support America First companies as you're thinking about shopping. Thank you again, Dr. Troy. It's been wonderful to have
all
you
right.
here.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone. Good night.
thanks. Okay, here we go, guys. Stay around. Let's see who we've got to support. Um, and we will see you on the next show. Thank you again for being here. I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. And don't forget to support our America First companies right here on The Mary Grace Show at marygracemedia.com. We'll see you back here soon.
This is my brother, and I'm Nace, and we're the Grid Down Chowdown, and this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with. Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm third generation, my son's fourth generation, and I've got some grandkids that are fifth generation.
Man, that's
We've
awesome.
been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
what it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code MaryGrace.
Our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
More now than ever on healthcare, and we're sicker than almost anybody in the world. We've put our trust in a system that's completely let us down. Dr. Troy Spurrill and the team at Synapse Center for Health and Healing have changed all that. They are a functional medicine clinic, and they get to the root cause of what's made you sick in the first place. Once they do that, they give you solutions to help you get out of that. This is the way that medicine was meant to be practiced, and this is what they're doing. They're changing the entire system from the inside out, one person at a time, and you could be one of those people. And so when you're working with the team at Synapse, they're giving you solutions and not just prescriptions. That's a game changer for me. When you set up a free discovery call with Synapse, you're starting on a journey of healing. You're starting on a journey of getting answers. And that's why I've partnered with them, because I want you to be healthy. I want your family to be healthy. I want you to have all of the resources that you need to steward the body and the health that God's given you. Go to officialsynapse.com and tell them Mary Grace sent you. That's Official Synapse, SYNAPSE.com.